This happened just a few months ago. I was part of a specialized research team aboard the research vessel, the Aegis. I always loved the ocean and felt confident in my experience as a marine biologist. I joined this expedition hoping to discover new species. But on our first dive, things took an unsettling turn that we descended into the darkness, surrounded by the hum of fluorescent lights inside the submersible. The crew was buzzing about the maps and equipment. I felt the thrill too. My focus was on my instruments when the sonar began picking up signals I didn't recognize. It didn't match any known marine life or geological structures. Maybe it was a glitch, I thought. I quickly brushed it off, but my heart raced when I saw a strange shape flicker on my screen. As the days passed, we made more dives, and the strange signals kept coming. They weren't just odd, they were disturbing. I kept catching glimpses of something out of place in the water outside my submersible. It felt like I was being watched. My skin tingled, and I felt part of something I didn't understand. I shared my worries with the crew. They suggested there could be underwater gases messing with our equipment. I wasn't so sure. Things got weirder. Equipment failed without any reason I could find. The crew joked about it, but I could see the tension in their faces. Twice, I woke up from nightmares where shadows reached toward me from the depths. I found it hard to sleep on the ship. In meetings, the crew discussed data, but I felt alone in my thoughts. They seemed to dismiss my fears. They looked scared, but maybe not as much as I was on one dive. The submersible shook violently for a moment, and everything went dark. Panic washed over me. I scrambled to regain control. It felt like eternity until the lights flickered back on, and I saw nothing but darkness outside. Then, for a fleeting second, something dark danced at the edge of my vision. My heart pounded. Was it real? I didn't know anymore. After that dive, we surfaced. The crew went over the data, but uncertainty hung in the air like a shadow. Had we discovered a new marine ecosystem, or something that reflected our deepest fears? I didn't have answers. That chilling presence clung to me, lurking beneath the ocean. I avoided looking in the water after that. In quiet moments, I still think of it. I never stopped wondering about what we encountered. Something unexplainable drifted in that abyss. Then it hit me, the sound of something knocking at the submersible, just once, echoing through that unforgiving darkness. What was it? I still don't know. The next day, we geared up for another dive. I felt heavy as I stepped into the submersible, the weight of unspoken fears pressing down on me. My mind was racing. What if we found something again? What if the knocking happened again? Nevertheless, I shook off the dread. I couldn't let it consume me. As we descended, the familiar hum of the engines surrounded me. I watched the depth gauge change, sinking lower and lower. The light from above faded, and the world outside became an alien realm of shadows. I struggled to concentrate on the instruments. They flickered as if they felt the unease as well. Halfway down, the sonar beeped, echoing through the tense silence. That same eerie pattern was back. My fingers danced over the controls, eyes glued to the screen, the anxiety building. I hesitated, but remembered the crew's comments about malfunctions. I told myself to ignore it. Then the lights flickered again. I leaned closer to the screen, hoping to make sense of the patterns. "Were you?" I whispered, as if it could hear me. Then, through the murky darkness, I saw a shape moving in sync with the signals. It seemed to grow larger. My breath hitched. Was it my imagination? I could hardly breathe as I stared. "Everything okay down there?" The voice of Dave, our operations lead, crackled through the comm. He sounded distracted, as though he sensed my tension. "I'm fine," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just seeing some unusual readings." Just then, an impact rattled the submersible. It wasn't another knock. It was forceful, like something large had collided with us. My heart raced. "What was that?" I shouted. "Nothing to worry about," Dave said. But I saw the concern in his eyes when I glanced toward him. Tension rippled through the crew. "Let us get lower," I said almost instinctively. I needed to see what was down there. The crew looked hesitant, but nodded. We descended deeper, my heart pounding in tandem with the submersible's engines. As we passed dark terrains of endless rock, Anxiety morphed into something sharper. This was beyond curiosity. It felt ominous. Hints of movement flitted around us in the dark. I couldn't tell if they were actual entities or just tricks of the light. Then everything went quiet. The sonar stopped pinging. The lights flickered, and a cold dread washed over me. I remember the nightmares, the shadows. Were they becoming reality? Just then, a shape emerged from the depths, a silhouette against the darkness. My breath caught. It was massive, unlike anything I'd ever seen. I barely had time to register its features before the submersible shook again, and the lights flickered out completely. We were plunged into darkness. I fumbled for the controls, panic rising within me. "We need to surface," shouted Sarah, one of our engineers, her voice tight with fear. But my hands were shaking, and I couldn't find the right buttons. As the silence deepened, a light flickered back on, revealing the figure looming just outside our thick glass. That's when I saw it. What I had feared, what I had sensed. It stared back at me with eyes that felt alive, and I knew at that moment this was no ordinary encounter. My heart raced as I locked eyes with the creature outside. The moment felt suspended in time. It wasn't just its size that intimidated me. It was the intelligence reflected in its gaze, a knowing that sent chills down my spine. I had expected something monstrous, but this was a different kind of fear. I felt exposed and small, as if the depths were watching me. "Guys, do you see that?" I managed to croak out, my voice barely more than a whisper. "See what?" Sarah replied, panic creeping into her tone. The lights flickered again, momentarily illuminating the thing outside. It darted away, a flick of dark appendage slithering back into the abyss. The rest of the crew turned, trying to get a glimpse, but I was frozen, a prisoner of my own shock. Then came the pressure. It built slowly but abruptly, shaking the submersible. "No, hold steady," I yelled, grasping the controls more tightly. I had to stabilize us. "Is it trying to breach?" David shouted, his voice laced with fear. "Maybe it's just the current," I said, though my own words fell hollow. I wanted to believe that. The ship quaked again, and I gripped the console harder, a bead of sweat tracing down my back. The sonar was back online, but it was more chaotic than before. This time, the signals came in a jumbled mess, like they were warning us, urging us to retreat. I hadn't time to call for an ascent, but maybe we had gone too deep. Panic seized my thoughts, and the walls felt like they were closing in. "Is there anything out there?" Sarah asked, gripping her seat as if it was all that kept her grounded. I looked out into the dark. Just beyond the glass, I could make out a silhouette again, one that appeared to be circling around us. The creature was assessing us, and I realized it was just curious. It felt predatory. "There is something," I started, but my words faded. The silhouette shifted, revealing not one, but multiple forms. They danced in the blackness, moving in and out of the weak, flickering light. "Shut off the external lights," I barked. We needed to fade into the shadows, become invisible. Dave hurried to comply, and the light went off, leaving us in darkness once again. "Do you think it's gone?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. Before I could answer, I felt an immense pressure slam against the side of the submersible. Alarms blared, and everything tipped sideways. My breath quickened as I struggled to control the craft, throwing me against the controls. "Brace for impact!" I screamed, but inside I was screaming for something else entirely. Then, everything went eerily silent again. The alarms ceased, the pressures eased, but I knew better than to think we were safe. "Is everyone okay?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "Yeah, but what was that?" Dave's eyes were wide, darting around. Before I could respond, the lights flickered back on. A blinding beam illuminated the water outside, revealing the creature hovering just beyond our window. It was larger than before, and what had looked like shadows now transformed into limbs that unfurled toward us. "It's coming," I shouted, a new sense of urgency wrapping around my chest. We had to decide, and we had to decide fast. "We need to surface now." I pressed the ascent button, knowing every second counted. But as we tried to pull away, something gripped the submersible, and I knew whatever was out there wasn't letting us leave. The grip on the submersible was unyielding, a suffocating force that yanked us downward. I slammed the ascent button again, my heart pounding like a war drum. It's trying to pull us under. I yelled, my voice rising above the chaos. Do something. We can't stay here. Sarah cried, panic filling her voice. I could see the dread etched on her face, and it mirrored my own. Cut the engines. We're probably creating vibrations it can sense. David's suggestion cut through the haze of fear. It made sense. We'd just become an easy target. Now, I nodded and quickly shifted off the engines. The hum died, leaving only the sound of our heavy breathing. The creature's hold slackened slightly. My mind raced. If we could just make it out of this mess, but then the water around us seemed to boil. I looked outside, heart dropping. Shadows darted everywhere. There were more of them. Back on engines. Get us out of here, I shouted. Wait. Sarah held up a hand, eyes wide. What if a shudder racked the submersible? Their shapes closed in, a clashing mass of limbs and dark bodies flickering at the edge of our lights. I felt another jolt, and this time, a sharp crack echoed through the cabin. Are we taking damage? Dave's voice trembled as he looked at the monitoring screens. We could sink. I didn't have time to answer. I needed to focus. Hold on. I gripped the controls tightly and thrust on the engines, trying to work my way out of the tangle. But the black mass crashed against us again and again. We were caught in their dance. Every impact rattled the submersible like a toy tossed in a storm, and I struggled to maintain control. Stop! You're going to break something, Sarah shouted, but the panic was high enough I could hardly hear her. Then, amidst the chaos, I spotted something. A shimmering shape in the depths. Whatever it was, it seemed to pulse and glow, contrasting with the darkness surrounding us. Something seemed different about it. Intrigued? Or an invitation to doom? Look, I shouted. What is that? The lights flickered up again, revealing the strange shimmer. The creatures halted at the sight, swirling around that central glow like leaves caught in a whirlwind. Should we go toward it? Dave asked. His voice was higher than normal, and I didn't blame him. We don't have a choice, I replied, realizing we were running out of options. I yanked the controls toward the shimmering light, hoping it would lead us safe ground. We edged closer. Something cool and peaceful washed over me. But just as I thought we were breaking from the grip, one of the creatures darted ahead, slamming into the side, sending us veering off course. Keep steady. We're almost there, I shouted, my voice full of desperation. Then, without warning, the shimmering shape flickered and vanished. The creatures froze, and in that moment, darkness enveloped us once more. Where did it go? Sarah's voice was a whisper. Before I could respond, darkness shifted. Something small and hard struck the window next to me. I looked over to see a scale, shimmering with the same bright light from before, floating away into the void. My eyes widened. That is not normal, I whispered, heart racing anew. Something pressed against the glass again. This time, I didn't need to guess. I felt its cold gaze. The creature was still there, and now it seemed angrier than ever. Get ready. I gripped the controls tighter, knowing we were far from out of danger. I braced myself for impact, praying my instincts were right. The creature's angry presence loomed close, its dark form pressing against the submersible's outer hull. I flicked the lights back on, desperate for a glimpse, but there was nothing but shadow outside. Drive. Now, Sarah urged. The engines roared back to life. The submersible lurched forward, but the creature matched our speed. It was like a predator toying with its prey, relentless and unnerving. The others were in a frenzy, their forms flitting around us with frantic energy. Can you accelerate? Get some distance, David shouted, gripping his seat that I stomped on the throttle, the engines straining under the pressure. The submersible shot forward into the dark. I watched the monitors, blinking in disbelief. We were gaining speed, but something about this chase felt wrong. Suddenly, another jolt slammed into us. The lights flickered again, and alarms blared around the cabin. That was below us. I hollered. It felt like the ocean itself was angry, making it clear we didn't belong here. God, it's relentless. Sarah gasped, scrambling to find her bearings. Each impact grew harder, and tension rose like pressure in a mountain. We need a plan. We can't just keep running. Before I could respond, a sharp crack rang through the cabin. I turned to see a crack spreading across the viewing window. Dread washed over me. We're taking damage. We can't let it break through. I shouted, shifting my focus. My heart thudded in my chest, but I pushed the panic aside. Maybe we can fight back, David suggested, reaching for the emergency flares we had brought along. Are you crazy? Sarah shouted. We can't ignite anything down here. It'll freak out all of them. But we're out of options, David argued. In that moment, I noticed the shimmering scale floating by again. It was moving slowly now, almost as if it was trying to signal something. Look at that. I pointed, heart racing. I don't want to look at it. I want to get out of here, Sarah cried, panic lacing her voice. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the scale was somehow important. Maybe it's a way out or a warning. I gripped the controls tighter, feeling the vibrations of the creatures pounding against us. We need to get closer to that scale. With a quick shift, I maneuvered the submersible in its direction, heart pounding. The dark figure shifted, seeming to hesitate for just a moment. Then, as if the ocean itself decided I had delayed enough, I felt a violent slam a creature struck with bone-crushing force. The cabin shook, and I glanced at the window. A fissure snaked across the glass, and my stomach dropped. Hold on, I shouted as I fought to stabilize the submersible. The water around us swirled into chaos. I couldn't let fear take over. We needed to reach that scale. Suddenly, everything went dark again. The lights flickered out, and the alarms quieted into an eerie silence. What just happened? David shouted, his voice raw with fear. Then came a soft echo that bounced around the cabin, far too calm for the chaos outside. Come to me, the hairs on my neck stood up. What was that? My voice trembled. As I struggled to regain control, I felt it, a gentle tug, as if the ocean was pulling me towards something. Let's follow it. But as I turned the controls, the weight of the darkness loomed closer. A cold chill brushed against my skin, and I knew this was only the beginning. The darkness closed in around us, swallowing every trace of light. I fumbled with the controls, anxiety clawing at my chest. The submersible shuddered again, and I could feel the weight of the water pressing in from all sides. My fingers danced over the buttons, tried to bring the lights back up, but there was no response. Can anyone see anything? I asked, my voice shaking. Nothing but black, David shouted. The panic in his voice echoed my own. Stay calm, I said, forcing steadiness into my tone. Let us focus on the voice. It might be leading us somewhere. A faint pulse of bioluminescent light flickered in the distance. It was the scale again, glowing softly in the abyss like a beacon in the night. I was drawn to it, an instinct telling me it was the key to our survival. I'm going to try to get closer, I announced, my grip tightening on the controls. As I angled the submersible, the pull from the ocean grew stronger. It was as if the water itself wanted us to follow that light. Suddenly, a loud crack reverberated through the cabin. The lights flared momentarily, and I caught a glimpse of something massive moving just outside our viewing window. My heart raced as I saw a dark silhouette pass by, scales glimmering in the dim light. What was that? Sarah's voice was a whisper, full of dread. It's hunting, I said, my instincts screaming for us to move faster. We need to go now. I pushed the throttle to its limit. The engines roared in protest, but the submersible surged ahead. The light pulsed again, beckoning us, and I felt a surge of hope. But then, the submersible jolted violently, slamming me against my seat. I glanced at the monitors, seeing the pressure rising rapidly. We're in a compression zone, I shouted, panic rising in my voice. We have to hold together. Oh my God, it's coming back. David pointed through the crack in the window. I squinted and saw the creature again, its massive form drawing closer, the scales glistening like shards of glass. Faster, I cried, veering the submersible toward the light. As we raced, the gains of speed felt insignificant compared to the threat behind us. The luminous scale began to drift away, leading us deeper into shadow. I risked a glance back. The creature was relentless, closing the distance with a terrifying ease. "It's too fast. We're not going to make it," Sarah yelled, her face pale. Then I remembered the emergency buoy. It might be our only chance to signal for help. If I could just get it deployed, we might draw the creature away long enough to escape. "Hold on tight," I shouted, hitting the activation switch. Just as I did, the submersible shuddered violently again. I felt a sense of dread wash over me as the lights flickered, now fading out completely to eye in the pitch black. I heard the voice again, echoing all around us. Come to me. I couldn't tell if it was real or just my mind playing tricks, but I knew one thing. We had only moments left before the creature reached us. That is when I felt a sharp tug on the submersible, as if something was trying to pull us up. My instincts screamed to follow, but the darkness roared around us. A choice to make. Would I follow into the unknown or face the darkness behind us? I didn't have time for doubt. My fingers hesitated for just a moment, then I slammed the throttle forward, trusting my gut. The submersible leaped ahead, responding to my command, searching for that flicker of light that felt like a promise. The darkness pressed in, but the tugging sensation intensified. It was as if something was guiding me, pulling me away from the predator lingering just a few meters behind. I clenched my jaw and focused on the path ahead. The faint glow pulsed, brighter this time, igniting a fire of desperation in my heart. "Keep your eyes peeled for something," I shouted to David and Sarah. "We need to be ready for anything." The cabin shuddered again, and I felt a shift in the submersible. I glanced at the pressure gauges. They were stabilizing. Maybe we had cleared the compression zone. But my hope was short-lived. A thunderous crash made the entire vessel rattle, sending a wave of panic through us. "What was that?" Sarah gasped. Her wide eyes darted toward the viewing window. "I don't know," I shouted over the sound of twisting metal. "Hold on." The glow shifted, moving as if it were alive, beckoning me onward still. As I steered closer, an oppressive silence enveloped us. The ocean seemed to hold its breath, and all I could hear was the pounding of my heartbeat. Then, in the silence, I heard it again. The voice, low and haunting, floated through the cabin. "Come to me, did you hear that?" David whispered, terror etched on his face. "Yeah, I did." "It's close," I whispered back, fighting the urge to turn around. We needed to trust it, whatever entity spoke. We had to follow the glow. Suddenly, the light expanded, revealing what looked like a vast underwater cavern. The walls shimmered with the same bioluminescent scales. The sight took my breath away, a surreal beauty laced with fear. "That's incredible," Sarah exclaimed, her earlier dread replaced by wonder. "Let us not get too comfortable," I said, still gripping the controls tightly. We couldn't let our guard down yet. I couldn't shake the feeling that the creature was still stalking us, watching our every move. As we slowly entered the cavern, the pulsing light grew brighter, illuminating distant formations that resembled buildings, crafted by nature, yet eerily geometric. "What is this place?" I breathed, awed by the sight. Before I could respond, a loud rumble echoed around us. The cave trembled, sending a ripple through the water. "We need to get out of here," I yelled. But just as I turned to flee, the creature struck. A massive tail whipped around the rock walls, sending debris flying toward our path. I slammed the controls to evade the chaos. "That thing is not giving up," David shouted, panic rising again. "Strap in," I yelled, my heart pounding as I tried to navigate through the collapsing cave. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught the glow of the light dancing in the chaos ahead. It was trying to lead us out, but was it truly guiding us to safety or into an even darker fate? In that moment of decision, the wall of water surged again, and I had to choose. Time was slipping away. Would I trust the light and embrace the unknown, or turn back to face the looming threat behind? I chose to follow the light. With a swift motion, I turned the submersible, aiming for the glow that felt like a lifeline. The cavern walls rushed by, dark and menacing, as I focused on the pulsating beacon. "Go, go," Sarah urged, gripping her harness tightly. I could hear the tremble in her voice. The creature's tail swiped at us again, sending up a cloud of sand and debris. I swerved just in time, but not without feeling a sickening jolt that threatened to throw us off course. "Hang on!" I yelled as we plunged deeper into the cave, speed burning in my veins. The light ahead pulsed more intensely, wrapping around us like a warm embrace. I couldn't help but feel a strange connection to it. "It's the only way," I shouted. David's face was a mask of fear, but there was a glint of determination in his eyes. "If this doesn't work, we're done for," he said, urgency lacing his tone, that we charged forward, the cavern narrowing. I could hear the water thrumming around us, as if nature itself was aware of our plight. The shimmer of the light danced against the walls, revealing cracks and shimmering veins in the rock. Then, just when I thought we were safe, the glow flickered. A shadow darted past, too quick to see, but I felt its presence. "What was that?" I gasped, instinctively glancing back. "It's right behind us," Sarah yelled, and there was no denying it. I could sense that malevolent energy, and it filled me with dread that I surged the thruster harder, pushing the submersible through the tight passage. "We have to make it," I shouted, desperation warping my voice. The wall was closing in, and the tail strike behind us created an echoing crash. Chunks of rock rained down on us, the thud vibrating in my chest. When we were just a few meters from the glowing light, a sudden shockwave rippled through the water. Everything shook. A blinding flash illuminated the cavern, and I squinted against the brilliance. My heart stopped as I froze. Was this the end? Then the light dimmed, and I saw it clearly. It wasn't just a light. It was a massive underwater structure, bioluminescent and alive, filled with designs that hinted at intelligence beyond my understanding. "That's incredible." David couldn't hide his awe, his earlier fear overshadowed by wonder I didn't have time to marvel. The creature reappeared, angry and impatient. It charged toward us with terrifying speed. "Get us in there. Now!" I shouted, my hands deftly maneuvering the controls. But as we neared the structure, a voice filled the cabin again, low and urgent. "Stay or face what lies ahead." The cave trembled more violently than before. I clenched my teeth. We were still being hunted. I had to act fast. "Are we going inside?" I asked, already knowing my answer. The glow beckoned like a siren, but uncertainty tangled in my gut. Just as I was about to make a move, the lights dimmed again, plunging us into darkness. My heart raced as fear settled in like an unwelcome guest. Then everything went dark. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust to the darkness, but then the panic kicked in. The submersible was still moving, but I had no idea where we were. "What happened?" I gasped, trying to steady my breath. "Did we lose power?" "I can't see anything," Sarah shouted, her voice edged with fear. "We need light. Now." "Hold on," I called back, fumbling with the controls. A surge of dread washed over me. I felt completely vulnerable, like a ship adrift in a storm. After a few frantic seconds, I managed to switch on the emergency lights. A dim glow flooded the cabin, revealing wide eyes and pale faces. David leaned forward, his voice barely a whisper. "Are we safe?" I didn't answer. I glanced back at the dark space behind us. The creature could be lurking, waiting for the right moment. "We should keep moving," I said, forcing myself to sound calm. "We can't just sit here." With a deep breath, I eased the submersible forward, the light illuminating patches of rock and strange formations. They seemed almost alive, swirling patterns that made my skin crawl. I was sure my imagination was just racing, fueled by fear, but something about this place felt wrong. As we advanced, a sharp movement caught my eye. "Did you see that?" I asked, heart racing. "What?" Sarah replied, scanning the darkness outside. "They're over there." I pointed the submersible's light toward a flicker in the shadows. It was just a brief flash, but my stomach twisted at the thought of what might lie hidden. Suddenly, a sound resonated through the water, a slithering noise that made my skin prickle. It seemed to echo off the stone walls, wrapping itself around us like a cold blanket. "What was that?" David whispered, his voice trembling. I don't know, but we need to go faster. I pushed the controls, urging the submersible into a more desperate speed. The creature could still be on our tail. I could almost feel its breath. The cavern twisted abruptly, and I veered to avoid a wall. That S when I saw it another glowing light, brighter and more inviting than the first. There! I almost shouted. We have to head toward it. But as we drew closer, I noticed it wasn't just a light. It was an entrance, shaped like a cave mouth. A flood of warmth washed over me, a stark contrast to the dread filling the cabin. What if it's a trap? Sarah said, gripping her harness tighter. There's no other option. We either take that chance or let the creature catch us, I said, pushing the thrusters to full power. As we neared the entrance, the darkness felt alive, pulling at us with unseen tendrils. Then, a massive figure broke through the shadows behind us, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Go! Go! I screamed as I shoved the controls forward. The entrance beckoned tantalizingly close, but the creature was closing in fast. It was now or never. I pushed the submersible into the glowing cavern with everything I had, praying we could escape the nightmare. Just as the creature lunged, the sound of a bone-chilling roar filled the water. Then everything went silent. The absence of sound was deafening. My heart pounded as the submersible surged forward into the glowing cavern, the light enveloping us in a warmth that felt like a protective embrace. I could almost believe we'd escaped, or so I hoped. The walls of the cavern shimmered with bioluminescent designs that seemed to pulse in rhythm with my racing heartbeat. I took a breath, trying to steady the chaos within me. Is everyone okay? I finally asked, my voice strained but urgent. Yeah, just shaken, David replied, visibly dazed. I glanced at Sarah, her eyes wide and unfocused, processing everything that had just unfolded. Keep an eye on the monitors. Any signs of it following us? I instructed as I focused on navigating the intricate passages of this alien sanctuary. I felt like I was piloting a vessel through a dreamscape, curious yet terrified. Suddenly, the smooth hum of the submersible cut out, leaving us eerily silent once more. Panic ignited inside me as I banged the consoles, trying to restart the power. Come on, please. My heart raced. Anyone? Sarah frowned at the screens. We're losing power fast. We need to get out of here before her warning cut off as the walls of the cavern shuddered, a rumble vibrating through the bedrock. I felt the submersible shift, and intuitively, I grasped the controls tighter. We have to find an exit, I muttered. Now! The walls glowed brighter as I steered us further in, desperate to evade whatever was lurking behind. David began, but his words were swept away by another shudder that knocked the submersible sideways. Then I saw the passage ahead widened into a vast area, alive with bioluminescent colors that pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. My hopeful instinct urged me onward to the epicenter of it all. Where the glow seemed strongest, as we entered this vast chamber, the air was thick with an electric charge. I felt a resonance vibrate through my bones, tinged with something ancient and powerful. I couldn't help but wonder if this was a sanctuary or a trap. This doesn't feel right, I whispered to myself. Before I could process the fear that threatened to swallow me whole, the lights flickered on, revealing intricate formations rising from the ground, weaving in elegant spirals. The figures created bizarre patterns, almost as if they were telling an ancient story. Do you see that? I asked, my breath hitching at the inexplicable beauty surrounding us. Yeah, but it's unsettling, Sarah whispered, eyes darting like a startled bird. I pushed deeper into the magical glow, half expecting the creature to arrive any second. What if we were simply lured here to become prey? Anxiety clutched at my gut. We need to find a way out, but before I could finish, the wall of the cavern shuddered again, and the pulsating glow dimmed. A chilling silence pressed in around us. What is happening? I felt my voice tremble. Maybe it's just a natural occurrence? David offered, though his tone suggested he didn't believe it. Don't I began, but a relentless crashing noise cracked through the chamber. The echoing roar reverberated all around us, and, instinctively, I turned to the monitors. No, It can't be. The lights began to flicker. Shadows flit across the glowing designs. The creature's presence was palpable, stalking us even here. "Get ready," I shouted, preparing to navigate back through the intricate passages. Uncertainty gripped me. Would the glow lead us to safety, or was it merely leading us deeper into its territory? Before I could respond, the submersible lurched, and alarms blared. The walls seemed to close in, and I felt a heavy pressure in my chest. "We need to go now," I yelled, forcing the controls into action. "We can't stay here." "Where?" Sarah looked toward the dimming lights behind us. I knew there was no time for doubt or hesitation. Trusting the pull of the glow, I drove the submersible into the deeper recesses of the cavern, the ambience growing densely heavy around us. I gripped the controls. My mind raced with creeping dread. What if this was the creature's lair? Was it all a cruel deception waiting to unfold? I forced myself to breathe evenly, trying to calculate our escape while staring into those elusive shadows. In the chaos of confusion, I felt the tug of something close, a whisper echoing through the cabin, the same haunting voice I had heard before. "Stay or face what lies ahead." "We can't stop," I urged, desperation clawing at me. The dim glow beckoned, promising safety or perhaps veiling a more significant threat, a more profound mystery that so many had tried to unravel. The chamber trembled around us as I deeper into the unknown. My heart raced, every ounce of me fueled by the need to survive. "Hold on tight, everyone." And as I navigated through the depths, I understood that answers wouldn't come easily. Reality and nightmares blurred, and what lurked in the shadows would forever remain a question mark, a haunting memory that flitted in and out of my mind long after. When we finally breached the surface days later, the sunlight stung my eyes. Every member of the crew went silent as we gathered on deck, gazing back at the impenetrable sea. I didn't share my experiences, no one did. Some questions had no answers, and in the haunting depths of the ocean, one slipped into darkness, leaving the rest to wonder if something had truly been there, or perhaps it was just the shadows playing tricks on our minds. I turned my back on the water, knowing I'd never be the same again. Some mysteries must remain unsolved. Some echoes should never return.